Okay, so I'm attempting to write you the diagrams for photosynthesis and respiration, and I'm going to attempt to announce them to you as I go. Bear with me, it might not be perfect. And so the first chemical reaction that we're dealing with is photosynthesis. And there are two steps to photosynthesis. The first step of photosynthesis is the light reaction. All right, I'm going to write the chemical equation for the light reaction next to photosynthesis so we can do our characteristic crossing off of all of our variables. Photosynthesis takes 6 water plus 6 CO2, turns it into glucose, and 6 oxygen. Can you still see that? You can still see that barely. Sorry, the green is kind of pale. And so the light reaction, the first part of the light reaction, we take in water. Water goes in. Actually, not going to bother with the coefficients here. Water goes into the equation. Also, sunlight goes into the equation because remember, it is called the light reaction because of the fact that it requires light to happen. Water comes in and sun goes in, and then what we get out of that, we produce some oxygens there, and then we produce our favorite intermediate molecules that everybody hates, NADPH. We also produce 1 ATP. That ATP is required for the next step of photosynthesis, which is the dark reaction. The dark reaction is also known as the Calvin cycle. I'm going to write Calvin in parentheses. Okay, so in photosynthesis part 1, we have gotten rid of water and we have gotten rid of oxygen. We also got rid of sun, but I didn't write the sun up in there. And then for the dark reaction, we take care of the other two terms. We take in carbon dioxide plus these two intermediate molecules, NADPH and ATP. Move on to the dark reaction. We need those to start it. So carbon dioxide plus NADPH plus ATP. That's the left side of the equation. That is the product, the reactants, excuse me. And then when those things combine, we get out of it glucose, C6H12O6. That's photosynthesis. Okay, 2 steps, light reaction. Light reaction takes in water and sunlight, spits out oxygen, NADPH, and ATP. Then those 2 things go on to the dark reaction. The dark reaction takes in carbon dioxide, combines it with NADPH and ATP, and ends up producing glucose. The oxygen, when it's completed, it goes out of the plant through the stomata. The stomata is responsible for gas exchange. So that's where the oxygen goes, and then the glucose goes to the vacuole because the plant needs to store it to be used later. I'm going to erase this, and then we're going to do cellular respiration on it. I never did my crossing out for the dark reaction. Dark reaction, we took care of carbon dioxide and glucose. There they go. Sorry, forgot it. And then we have cellular respiration. With a pretty similar chemical reaction. Not water. Glucose goes in, plus 6 oxygen. What we come out with is 6 water, 6 CO2, and we also come out with 36 ATP. Okay? Sorry if that's kind of hard to read. You'll watch this in a bigger screen, it might be easier. And so, technically, there are 2 steps to cellular respiration, but step 2 has 2 steps. So there are really, like I like to describe it, 3 steps to cellular respiration. We have 1, then we have 2, and then out of 2 we have letter A and letter B. You can still see that low. Good. So step 1 of cellular respiration. No matter what happens, whether there is or is not oxygen, we have glycolysis. Glycolysis is the splitting of glucose. Since we need to split glucose, that's the thing that we're trying to do with glycolysis. Glucose is the thing that goes into the equation. We also need 2 ATP in order to break it. A little bit of energy is needed to break the glucose and harness the energy that's inside of it. What we come out with are 2 pyruvates, which is a 3-carbon sugar that is made when you split glucose in half. Look, if I have 6 carbons in 1 molecule of glucose and I cut that in half, how many do I have left? I have 3. Pyruvate has those 3 carbons in them. I also release 4 ATP, but remember, this is when we talked about our lemonade stand. If I require $5 to start a lemonade stand and then I make $10, I've really only made 5 net dollars. 5, can't see the camera. 5 net dollars because I needed 5 of them to start it, and that's how this works. If I need 2 ATP in order to break a pyruvate, and when I break it, I release 4 ATP, I really only released 2 ATP because I needed 2 of them in order to start the process. So I made up for those, and now I have 2 left over. These 2 ATP go on to contribute to the total amount of ATP that we make, which is 36. And then the second part of cellular respiration, assuming that there is oxygen present, is called aerobic respiration. Aerobic means that it requires oxygen. And then there are 2 parts of aerobic respiration. The first part of aerobic respiration is called the Krebs cycle. Okay? In my first step here, I took care of glucose, and I took care of some of my ATP. I already drew the arrow up there. The Krebs cycle needs these pyruvates to start. So in the Krebs cycle, we have pyruvate. Pyruvate gets broken again. When you break glucose, you get pyruvate. When you break pyruvate, you get carbon dioxide. And remember, pyruvate has 3 carbons in it, and so I can make 3 carbon dioxides out of pyruvate. The other things that I make in the Krebs cycle are NADH, there's no P, and FADH2. Those are intermediate energy molecules that move on to the next step of aerobic respiration, which is the electron transport chain. Also known as the ETC. That's what I like to call it. But we're not done with Krebs cycle just yet. These 2 things are needed in order to start the electron transport chain. But I also produce a little bit more ATP. These 2 ATP go here and add on to the total of ATP that we are making. I need 36 total. I've made 2 in glycolysis and I've made 2 in the Krebs cycle. That means I've made 4 total ATP, which means I have 32 left to make in the electron transport chain. I have my intermediates that go into the electron transport chain. NADH and FADH2. And I also combine those with oxygen because oxygen is one of the things that needs to go into respiration. Took care of carbon dioxide here in the Krebs cycle, so that one's gone away. These 2 bounce down the electron transport chain. You take the H's off. When you take the H's off, you add them to the oxygen. And we add H's and oxygen together, that gives us water. So water is produced here. And then I also produce the remainder of my ATP, which is 32 of them. So these are my steps, okay? Step 1, glycolysis. I take glucose and I break it. I end up with pyruvate and 2 ATP. Then pyruvate moves on to the Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle gets broken again. When you break pyruvate, you get carbon dioxide. When you break pyruvate, you also get NADH, FADH2, and you release 2 ATPs worth of energy. Then NADH and FADH2 move on to the electron transport chain. Those things get combined with oxygen, You pull the H's off, you can produce water when you combine hydrogen and oxygen. And then we produce the remainder of my ATP, which is 32 of them. These are done for. After you pull the H's off of them, they go back up to the Krebs cycle to be remade and to be recycled. So that's how respiration works. Hope this helped. Good luck on your test.